Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. It's time for our latest spoiler-filled movie review here on
the All-American Spookshow podcast.
We take a deep dive into what makes each movie good or bad. Stick around at the end. Donnie has
connections from the credits,
linking each movie to past episodes. Will gives the official
kill count.
Professor Smoke gives us
gore score.
And of course, we all give our star ratings. As they say, on with the show. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the All-American Spookshow Horror Podcast. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donnie.
Hey.
Will.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
Up.
We are here to finally watch what's got to be one of, if not the most batshit crazy movie of 2021. And that is James Wan's, and we'll get into what our thoughts are, toward the end, but in my mind, somewhat of an instant cult classic, I think. That's just my opinion. I think this is going to be one of those ones 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now that people are going to look back on probably more fondly than they do right now. But we'll get into that. This is also kind of, by the way, I think I said Malignant, but I remember saying James Wan, but I can't remember. But regardless, it's Malignant. That's what we're going to be watching from 2021.
I mean, we knew that, but they didn't.
Yeah,
so,
true.
I don't remember you saying it.
Well, you know what happens when you assume. Make an ass out of you and me. And I'm used to doing that to myself. This is the first new movie review that we're going to be doing here in 2022. So, since our first movie review was New Year's Evil 2 weeks ago, back on January 3rd. It's also kind of unofficially Canon Films Month. And I say that because it's kind of like we're dipping in and out of the Canon film stuff. But this is not a Canon film. Like I said, this is a James Wan, Warner Brothers flick, but it's very Canon-esque in a lot of ways. At least on the batshit crazy side of things, right?
Yeah, if Canon was still a company today putting out movies, this could definitely be one of their films.
Oh yeah. This would definitely be a Golden Globus production, and all you need to do is just tighten this up to about an hour and a half, and then put like a little glow on it, because like every Canon film had that weird glow about it. And then, bam, it's a fucking Canon movie. But anyways, so we're going to take a deep dive into Malignant here in just a minute. But I guess before we do all that, I'll throw out the usual information, where you can find us and contact us. Email, allamericanspookshow@gmail.com, at AA Spookshow over on Twitter. Search for All-American Spookshow on Instagram, the Slasher app, Facebook, of course, TikTok.
Yep.
YouTube. We have our YouTube channel where every Wednesday night we do Deadline Horror News Live, where we talk about the latest headlines and horror news. Usually around 9 p.m. East-ish over on our YouTube channel. We have our TeePublic page where you can find logoed merchandise and all that other cool stuff that we have for sale there, so you can help out the podcast. All these things that I just mentioned are down in the link tree, down in the notes of this episode. Click on the link tree. You should see everything lined up very all organized and pretty-like for you. So you click on any of those, takes you straight to what you want. So we encourage you to do that. And, of course, patreon.com/AASpookshow. That's the main event, other than the podcast. We got some new stuff cooking over there, too. Like, we just did, last week, we did the first episode here on the podcast of Spookshow Rewind, where we go back to episode 1, episode 2, so on. And it gives Donnie a chance to give his ratings, and we talk about the movie again, kind of update some information, and, just have a good time reminiscing and all that. We just had the first one, which was Reanimator, last week, but since then we have decided to move that over to Patreon. So if you listened to that last week, or if you haven't yet, go check out episode 90 in the archives just last week from January 10th. Go listen to that, and you'll get a taste for what's going to be coming out over on Patreon. So we're going to kind of keep that Spook Show Rewind thing going over there. And who knows, we might occasionally put it back out on the podcast feed, in the months and weeks ahead. But for now,
it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, that's gonna move over there. So that's just another exclusive thing if you're over on our Patreon. On top of our every Tuesday we have a video minisode where, you know, the main event there is the library, the professor, all kinds of cool stuff coming. Trust me, we got a few things cooking in the kitchen. So you wanna join us over there on the ground level right now? Become a patron of the Spook Show over at patreon.com/AA Spook Show and help us out. So I guess without further ado, I'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for 2021's Malignant.
I'm having visions.
The body of Dr. Florence Weaver was found brutally murdered in her home this morning.
Did you know her? No, but I saw her die. I'm seeing things. I'm seeing murders as they're happening.
Hello?
He says his name is Gabriel. I think he's someone from my past.
Whatever happened to you before you joined our family hurt you in a way that I can't even imagine.
Stop saying that.
Maddie, who are you talking to?
Gabriel.
Is he your imaginary friend?
He's the devil.
Whatever it was, it's back. He killed again. He's getting closer.
He wants to talk to you.
Mom, what do you know? He's coming for me. Who are you, Gabriel?
All right, so there you have it. So I guess Donnie, I'll toss to you first. So is this the first time you watched it, and if so, what are your initial reactions without giving your rating out just yet?
Yeah, this is actually my second time watching it. I watched it when it first came out, and I kind of feel like I needed a second look. I did not like it the first time I saw it. I guess without getting too much into it, without giving my star rating, I probably got to say that the second viewing changed my outlook on it, even if, just by a little bit.
All right, Will, same question to you. What do you think?
Overall, I thought it was pretty good movie. The back half of the movie actually absolutely goes off the wall. The one thing that I would say really kind of bothered me for definitely the first half of the movie is it felt like the music in this movie did not fit the movie, for at least the first half. And then after you get halfway through the movie, everything kind of fits into what it needs to be. But I don't know, like it almost felt like halfway through the movie it was like, hey, do y'all remember kind of techno emo? Yeah, this is us. It doesn't fit the movie, but this is us. All right, now we're going back to what it should be. But past that, overall, I love the movie.
Now, this was the first time for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Smoke, same for you. What do you?
This was the first time I watched it all the way through. The first time I attempted to watch it, me and my wife sat down to watch it. I got off work. It was kind of late at night. I fell asleep about 20 minutes in, give or take. Although watching it this time around, I must have been dozing in and out because there was some stuff I remember that I guess I'd woke up for a second and saw it, and I don't know if it's part of a dream or what. But then when I watched it this time, I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember this part. And it was, we'll get into it. It was some parts near the end when we'll just call it creature for now, is doing some odd movements or whatever,
Yeah.
So for whatever, I must have woke up and saw that part and like, oh, that's interesting. And I saw the stream or something. I don't know, because I only remembered the first 20 minutes until watching it. You know, like I said, seeing some other bits and pieces of it. So yeah, I think it's a fun movie. It's one that's going to be. I know it's been, I guess, divisive for fans. I don't know if it's just because it's James Wan that's directing it, and people expect something like Saw and Conjuring or whatever, and they get this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what the backlash is, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I knew kind of what it was going into it anyway, so it wasn't really anything for me to be disappointed about. I didn't expect it to be like the Conjuring films or anything, so I went into it expecting kind of, you know, some sort of cult type fun movie, and that's what it was delivered. And there's certain bits that, like you said, it kind of reminds you like you're watching a Canon film in 2022 or 2021. So all it needed was to have the song, you know, "Living in a Cardboard Box" come in at some point.
I've been living in a cardboard box.
Living in a box.
Fucking hell.
They'd have that here and be a perfect Canon.
Yeah.
Canon-esque.
Or
but
that,
no, it was.
Or the New Year's Evil song.
They could have had that in the end credits there. One of those two songs at some point in the movie, and the other one in the end credits would have been fine. Yeah.
Oh shit!
I don't want us to skip over probably the most important thing that Smoke just said. He thought this was part of a dream.
Yeah.
What kind of fucking dreams do you have, man?
What kind of James Wan fever-fueled dreams are you having? When you wake up and
I don't remember.
Now wait, before we continue, hold on. We are a spoiler-filled podcast. I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, we're pretty bad about not reminding people sometimes. So everything we say from this point forward, if you have not watched *Malignant*, go watch this fucking movie. You know, pause this, go watch it, and then come back and listen to us talk about it. If you wake up and you see that shit at the end, and you're just like, and you just rolled over and went back to sleep, what the hell are you watching every day?
I don't know. I don't remember. Like I said, when I had fallen asleep, I don't remember remembering any of the movie beyond that. But then when I saw that scene of, I think it was running through the alleyway and kind of going up, it ended up going up through the roof and the hole in the roof or whatever. Some of that I remember somewhat, but I didn't know that I remembered it until I watched it this time around. So I don't know. So I must have thought it was a dream. I don't know, or it just was sitting in the, you know, just in that half wakeful part of the mind, and I just needed to see it again for it to trigger it. I don't know, but I do remember it now, that like seeing the definite, like I say, we'll get to it when we get there, but the definite movements of the creature and the reason why it moves that way. I didn't know that until I, you know, again watched it this time around and got to the end of it and like, oh, okay. But yeah, I don't remember that. And it triggered something. I must have been half awake during some of those scenes.
You've been drinking a little too much of that old Odin's beard mead there.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
A little bit, you know, half asleep or half passed out, or, you know.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and dive a little bit into the background information. This, of course, is rated R. It released pretty much wide in September of 2021. I'm trying to find the specific date of when it came out here in the U.S. Okay, September 10th, 2021 here in the U.S. It has a total runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes. So I would definitely say this is a little bit on the long side, right? I don't think I'm reaching too far there to say that. You easily could have chopped 20 or 30 minutes out of this movie, in my opinion, and it would have been fucking perfect. Over on IMDb, it's rated 6.3 out of 10 stars, and that's out of over 69,000 ratings. Metascore over on Metacritic of 51. Now, their scale is like basically 0 to 100, so 51 is pretty much dead center. Over on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 76% on the tomato meter, and that's out of 162 reviews. It is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I haven't looked at the Rotten Tomatoes rating, but I almost would have thought it wouldn't have been just, you know, some of the talk about it beforehand, I guess, of people talking about how much they didn't like it.
Well, with that, you know, almost exactly dead even with that Metacritic, you know, Metascore, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is only 52%. So this is the rare occasion where a movie like this actually got more praise from the critics than it did the audience. So it was directed by James Wan. So, you know, so obviously you know, we've talked a bunch about James Wan since we literally talked about every Conjuring movie that has come out so far, all 8 or 9 of them, whatever it was. But he's known mostly for the Conjuring universe stuff, the Saw movies, Aquaman, Furious 7. I mean, like, pretty much all the Conjuring stuff is all him. He's only directed. He has 15 directing credits over on IMDb. So I think that, like, technically, like, if you take out like the shorts and stuff like that, I think I saw where this is like the 10th movie that he's directed. So basically the Conjuring stuff, the Saw stuff, and the Insidious stuff, that's all him. And now I have a feeling this might become its own little universe too. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a Malignant verse after this. It really wouldn't. But this is written by James Wan, or story by James Wan, Ingrid Basu, and Kelly Cooper, and that's who wrote the screenplay. She is known for Luke Cage. Well, she was a producer on Luke Cage, Witches of East End, The 100. That's one of the shows over on the CW. She's got 13 writing credits, and she's actually been announced as writing the screenplay for The Nun 2. So I guess whenever that actually becomes a thing, it'll be her. It stars Annabelle Wallis as Madison Mitchell. This is the main, character in the picture. She is best known for The Mummy. Now this is the one with Tom Cruise from 2017. She played Mia in the first Annabelle. I didn't connect that when I was sitting there watching it, but damn if that's not, now I remember where I recognized her from. It was from the first Annabelle film. And she was also in X-Men First Class, 37 acting credits over on IMDb. Maddie Hassan, I guess that's how you say her last name, is Sydney Lake.
Sure.
We'll go with it. She is known for God Bless America, Twisted, and Impulse. She has 16 acting credits over on IMDb. George Young as Kakoa Shaw. That's an odd name. I think it even means something. Although I can't remember what I heard. Like, I heard somebody say, like, yeah, that name means something, but fuck if I know. He's known for Home, Containment, and Grace. 25 acting credits over on IMDb. Miko Brianna White as Regina Moss. She is known for Encino Man, Volcano, Courage Under Fire.
Sorry.
It's not often that we hear Encino Man mentioned here on the podcast. Volcano, Courage Under Fire. 65 acting credits over on IMDb, so she's been around a while. Jean Louisa Kelly is Jane Doe / Serena. Now, I don't want to give away the spoiler on her just yet, what her character is, but you'll find out when we dive into it here in a minute. But she was best known for Uncle Buck, Yes Dear, the series Yes Dear, Mr. Holland's Opus. She was in Ant-Man. 59 acting credits over on IMDb. Really about, I get, there's a handful of others, obviously, but the only other ones that's really worth mentioning are, like, the part of Gabriel, which we'll dive into what's going on with Gabriel there shortly. There's two people, because there's a person that plays the voice of Gabriel, and that's Ray Chase. He would be best known for, I guess, like, voice acting work and stuff like that, because he's got 242 acting credits on IMDb, and it looks like most of it's like voice work type stuff. It's like Final Fantasy 15. Actually had a part in Licorice Pizza, that latest film by Paul Thomas Anderson. Jujutsu Kaisen. He's going to be one of the voices in that upcoming revival of the X-Men animated series, X-Men 97. Recently in the video game Halo Infinite, stuff like that, like tons of voice work stuff. And then the actual physical performer of Gabriel is played by Marina Mazeppa, and she would be best known for roles in Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City most recently, The Unholy, The Girl in the Woods. So only 6 acting credits, all very recent, like literally like her first acting credit was 2020. So I guess kind of you can say up and coming, right? All of them are literally in the last 2 years. Yep. So really, I mean, did you guys have any other things to point out as far as background stuff or any particular person before we get into the movie itself?
I'll get into that later with the crypt connections. I think it's kind of an interesting wrinkle.
Well, not really pertaining to actors or anything in the background. It's just something that struck me when we were talking about the Rotten Tomatoes critics versus audience rating. That's something that would never happen to canon films. You never would have had critics ratings better than the audience ratings for a canon movie. So that's something very different.
Yeah. That's true. The main producers on this, I'll mention before we move on, was James Wan, of course, but also Michael Clear. He would be known for Mortal Kombat, Lights Out from 2016, and Donnie's favorite, The Curse of La Llorona.
Fuck.
Just 25 producing credits that date back to 2007 over there. And basically, Lights Out was his first, because the only other one before that was a short. He was the executive producer on Lights Out. So a lot of horror stuff and a lot of the Conjuring universe type stuff ever since. So clearly he's like a partner with James Wan, because Annabelle Creation, The Nun, Annabelle Comes Home, that Swamp Thing series, which was, James Wan had a part of that. Handful of other things. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention those were the two main producers here on the project. It was it was produced by New Line Cinema, Atomic Monsters Productions, which is James Wan's production company, Starlight Media Inc., and My Entertainment Inc., and of course it was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. It had a budget of $40 million, and the box office was only $34 million. Not to take a deep dive into the numbers there, but yeah, that is not good. But I'm sure that a lot of that had to do with the pandemic and, of course, all 2021, pretty much all of Warner Brothers' 2021 releases were released simultaneously on HBO Max. So I'm sure that had a lot to do with the bottom line.
Sorry, I did want to add that both Nicolas Cage and Stephen King praised *Malignant*.
Oh, what the fuck? What is the shock there? No shock whatsoever with that sentence.
Right? Yeah. So yeah.
That seems like this movie screams like it'd be right up there. I'm surprised Nicolas Cage. Are we sure he's not in this? Like he might be in this somewhere.
Hey, I see a movie in the future right there, directed by James Wan, written by Stephen King, starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh,
get on that.
Yeah, that's the holy.
I'm not the nut right now.
That's the holy trinity of what the fuckery right there.
This is getting off on a tangent, but have y'all ever seen like the connection with Nicolas Cage and the length of his hair as to whether the movie's going to be good or not?
No,
absolutely not.
The longer his hair is, the better the movie is.
Okay.
The shorter his hair is, the worse it is.
Okay. Yeah. Con Air, disagree with that sentiment.
Well, Con Air's good though.
Is it though?
Con Air is a fun movie you can actually sit there and enjoy.
Now I will say though, now it's been like.
Is it TBS fun or all the way through fun? No.
To be fair, both ways. I haven't watched Con Air in like 20 fucking years, so I remember liking it back then. So who knows? Hey, who knows? With some of the stuff that we've got planned up, and we don't want to go too far into what we've got planned. Maybe Con Air can make the list somewhere along the way here. So
that's funny.
But yeah, currently as we
sort of double feature in our future with the Wicker Man, the original, and the Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
Oh.
We'll have a double feature in the future, maybe.
I don't know if you want to do that. Maybe like if you watch one and then wait 2 weeks and watch the other. If you have to watch them back to back, man, like I don't know, one of them's gonna get shit on, and I'm gonna have to let you guess which one.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I would think the Nicolas Cage one. I'm not the original one's one of probably my top 25 horror movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching it back to back with the Nicolas Cage one, I don't know. I might just feel like it. Yeah. I dumbed down the original. I might actually have to give the original less marks if I did that. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it might. Yeah, you're right. It might work vice versa. Who knows? But anyways, as we speak, right here in January of 2022, this movie is not streaming anywhere. You have to go like rent it on like one of the video on demand rental services, or you need to go buy the Blu-ray or whatever, because it did come out on Blu-ray and DVD back in November 30th of 2021. So it's out now, if you want to go track it down, but you're going to have to pay. Like it's not on Netflix, HBO Max, or anything like that. Even though it did get that simultaneous HBO Max release, just like all the other Warner releases last year, it only lasted a month on there. So if you didn't get to see it in that little month window, then you do have to, shell out a couple bucks to go rent it or buy it to watch it, at least until it does go back on HBO Max or something like that. But yeah, like I said, I'm sure that had a lot to do with why it didn't make as much as possible, or just the batshit craziness of the movie.
Dude, saying that kind of stopped me and my wife from seeing it in the theater. Some of the backlash on it. I mean, we were like, it was a shitload of backlash that we were hearing, because I try not to read too much reviews or whatever. But you're on Facebook, you see some, you follow a lot of horror people and whatnot. You'll see some stuff. So yeah, we just heard that it wasn't all that good, and that unfortunately detracted us from seeing it in the theater. We thought, just wait for it to come out and on demand or on Blu-ray or whatever.
I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot of what you said. I think it's a lot of what you said to begin with. Is that like because it's a James Wan movie? I think everybody was expecting it to be Saw, The Conjuring, Insidious. They were expecting it to be that or some version of that, and when this definitely is not that.
No.
So then you're like, well, fuck this, you know. But I think that's knee jerk.
Hurry, hurry, step right this way, folks, for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, taste-tempting candies of finest quality. Enjoy popcorn, exploded into tender, delicious, crispy bites of crunchy goodness. Enjoy the tops in cool, refreshing soft drinks. If you want to enjoy some refreshments, this is your opportunity. There will now be a short intermission.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So we've explained how it works. You know, you definitely want to go over to audibletrial.com/spookshow to get your free credit or whatever, so you can listen to, you know, pretty much anything you want there. And if you cancel it, you get to keep that one thing. So I just went in and, you know, this is the easy one. I just typed in Malignant just to see what would pop up. And we got Malignant, How Bad Policy and Bad Evidence Harm People with Cancer by Vinayak K. Prasad. This sounds way too heavy for our audience. But if that sounds on any level interesting to you, that's almost 7.5 hours long. Malignant, Black Market DNA Book 2. So apparently this is at least the second book of God knows how many by Anthony J. Melchiori. That one's just over 8 hours long. And one more, let's see, Malignant by Anita Waller. So a lot of people apparently have just used this word malignant. God knows, you know, in different ways. But that one is just about almost 8.5 hours long. And I'm not sure what kind of book that is, but it looks like it could be like a mystery thriller type book, but who knows. But so yeah, I mean, just random pulls there. But that's the point. You can go on Audible and put in anything. We've proven this time and time again. And you'll find something that has, you know, something to do with whatever keyword you put in there. You'll find something. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. All right, so I guess enough of the banter out of the way. Let's get into the meat of the movie. The reason why we came here is to talk about this crazy ass movie. The movie begins in 1993, where you see this whole flashback sequence of how these doctors are dealing with this patient named Gabriel, and it's at the Simeon Research Hospital. And clearly Gabriel has some kind of powers, and like can control electricity and like can speak through the speakers and stuff like that. Some like mind control or something. I don't know exactly. You know, they don't. And that's the other thing. Like throughout this movie, don't really expect any deep explanation as to what the hell is going on with Gabriel. Right? It's just kind of like, here's the power set, just go with it, kind of thing. And basically, Gabriel just goes off the deep end one night and kills a number of the doctors and the staff members there in the old nut house. And that's how, you know, this is the whole setup, right? That's how it begins. So, Will, I guess I'll toss to you first. What did you think of this whole opening sequence and like instantly dipping you into the craziness of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great way to start the movie. It definitely like grabbed you and pulled your attention in. I mean, a lot of movies, you know, now that we've been doing this for a while, tries to sit more of a slow paced mood and let you know what's going on first before anything happens. And this one's just full speed ahead. We'll catch you up as we go along.
Yeah, I think they do a good job of setting up the craziness. Like, you know, you're in for some like, what the fuck is going on here right out the gate.
Yeah, it sets up the ground rules for the pace of the movie, I feel.
Even in the credits too, because I think the credits are like right after that, if I remember correctly.
How about those credits, man?
Yeah, well, in the credits though, like, there's shit in there that you need to kind of pay attention to, right? Because like they're showing like how there's some kind of surgery going on, and you see like the diagrams and shit like that. So like, you know, once you've watched the movie like through the first time, you go back and you look at that again, you're going to see some things there, you know, in those opening credits that you don't realize what you're seeing, kind of thing, you know. They do kind of explain things without explaining them. So after this, you fast forward 27 years later, Madison is introduced, and, you know, she's pregnant, lives in Seattle with her husband, and her husband's a piece of shit. right? They just easily establish like this dude's an ass. Like beyond the fact that he like grabs her and like busts her head on the wall. Like didn't he say something like, how many of my babies am I have to see die inside of you? Like god damn, man. Like
he is like every Hallmark bad husband except on crack.
Yeah, you gather from a lot of the what's going on here that she's been pregnant multiple times and keeps losing the baby. So for some reason he finds it in him to bully her about this, and they get into it and he pushes her, you shouldn't say push. I mean he fucking like smashes her head up against the wall, busts the back of her head, and it makes her head bleed, and then she like locks herself in the bedroom while he's in the in there asleep on the couch or whatever. She wakes up to find him dead after, like, some, he hears some shit. So, like, you kind of get, like, this thing of supernatural thing going on here, right? She sees something. I guess does she think it's like a ghost or something she sees, or does she think she's running from somebody? But she gets attacked, and then now she's knocked out. So, Donnie, what'd you think of this whole scene here?
Oh, man. It's just a kind of a mess, man. It's just... To me, like the starting intro. I mean, even though that the whole I guess I don't know if you actually call it a fight scene, but it's just kind of drags.
You mean just
maybe
this
it's just me?
This whole part, like with her running away from the ghost or the guy or whatever. I guess she assumes it's just somebody's broken into the house, right? And she's just running away from the guy or whatever, and then she gets attacked and knocked unconscious. So she's not necessarily thinking that it's a ghost, maybe, but although it does look supernatural, right?
Yeah.
But the next morning, she wakes up in the hospital, and then her sister, Sydney, is introduced, and she tells her that the baby did not survive, so now she's lost another kid. So then you're introduced to the police, who are investigating this whole thing. She returns home. Which, by the way, I don't know if I'd move back into that fucking house, right? Like, supernatural or not, like, I've been attacked. My husband's been, like, brutally murdered. I don't know if I'm going back there. Then Madison just, like, spills it out to Sydney that, oh, yeah, by the way, like, you were adopted. Or no, she tells her that she was adopted at 8 years old or whatever, right? But she kind of just spilled it on her, like, oh, yeah, but I just needed to feel that biological closeness. What do you mean? I'm your sister. Oh, no. Or I'm adopted. Whatever. Then the killer, who you don't know who this is quite yet, kidnaps a woman in the Seattle Underground. Now, I didn't even know. Did any of you know that the Seattle Underground thing was a real thing? Like, I've never been to Seattle, so I had no idea. But that's a real thing.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt. I mean, it was Atlanta, and then I know New York has a underground.
Yeah, I had never heard of it. That's It looks like something cool to see, if you ever out Seattle.
And there's a Velvet Underground too.
Really? That's a real thing?
Yeah.
Where?
What a time.
Music stores.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. So the killer goes down to the Seattle Underground and kidnaps the woman that's like the tour guide or whatever. But like right after that, Madison has a vision of the killer murdering Dr. Weaver. Now, I will say that I think this is kind of cool, like these little visions that she sees as the killer is murdering somebody. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. Like, she'll just be standing there, like, brushing her teeth, and all of a sudden, and transformed
and it's like the room decays and, like, melts. I thought that was, like, visually super interesting every time it happened.
No doubt. So far, Smoke, what do you think about, as far as, like, the setup of all that and how far we've come here?
What are we talking about? Oh, no, I'm kidding.
Malignant again?
Well, first of all, going back to the very beginning, I love that opening shot of the building for some reason, because I'm guessing that was not a real building. It reminded me of a matte painting in the 80s, even though it was probably a digital, digital what a matte painting would have been. So that right there, just that opening scene, just also gave me 80s cult movie vibes or whatever.
Oh, they were definitely going for that too. Did you notice, like, at the very beginning when you see, like, New Line Cinema or Atomic Monster, whatever the hell was on the screen there, it's got that VHS like overlay look to it or whatever. So yeah, they're definitely going for that 80s, 90s type of vibe there at the beginning.
And a little later on too, whenever, just talking about the setup of I can't remember the name of the hospital, whatever the name of it was. But later on, too, whenever one of the characters drives to the hospital, when they find out about the place and it's, it's abandoned and everything, she drives to it. That, too, she pulls up on the side, and I think it's like at night, and it's right by the water. It's just very, very fake. But purposefully meant to look like an 80s matte painting type structure or whatever. It's very obviously that they were going for, they weren't trying to mask the fact that it wasn't a real set or location, building, whatever. So that I like that about it. And then also that guy is a real asshole. You almost expected him to have been like screwing somebody else. Came home from work early, but he's like sitting there watching UFC or something on the bed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what the hell's like the middle of the day UFC anyways? Like, isn't those usually like weekend, like Saturday night events? Like, it's like a Wednesday afternoon. This motherfucker's watching UFC.
And then he's like, oh, you're home already?
Yeah. Oh, this bitch again.
So yeah, they do a good job of making him just like just an asshole that you hate, and like you don't mind seeing what happens to him.
I was only kind of surprised that they killed him as fast as they did. Like you would think this level of asshole, you want to keep him around a little bit.
Yeah, make it pay off really well when he gets killed.
Yeah. He just does like really, a couple of assholey things, and then immediately gets his fucking neck turned around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing too. That scene of his death. Well, not that showed it, just the aftermath of whatever, the way he died. A little later on, when the female detective thinks that they're kind of looking at her as a suspect, they're like because of the nature of their relationship, him beating on her, that maybe she would have killed him because of him beating her and whatnot. I'm pretty sure though, unless she had superhuman strength, she wouldn't be able to turn his head all the way around that way.
Oh, there's definitely some superhuman aspect to this, no doubt.
Yep. Oh, and then also the like we were talking about in the house when she kind of sees this being, whatever. I thought that kind of didn't gel necessarily with. I know we're not going to really talk about the ending of it yet, I guess, but the reveal of what's going on. If you look back into that scene, you're kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense to me as far as her seeing what she saw.
Yeah.
Shadow thing or whatever, unless it's just playing on her imagination or her mind. Her mind made her see that or whatever.
Now, this first vision that Madison has is basically the killer murdering Dr. Weaver. Now, Dr. Weaver is the one that apparently did like reconstructive surgery and worked at that Simeon research hospital, back in the 90s. Madison and her sister go to the police, and then she immediately has another vision, this time of the killer murdering Dr. Fields. Then that's when the killer actually contacts Madison and reveals himself to be Gabriel, Madison's childhood imaginary friend. So now they're setting this up like she had some imaginary friend when she was a kid named Gabriel, and there's a lot of, like, they kind of go back and show like some videos from her in this, where she was younger, I guess before she was adopted into that family. Just the fact that like weird things would happen and she's sitting there talking to her imaginary friend. Meanwhile, like, fucking plates are floating around or some shit like that, right? There was a lot of weird shit going on. Her parents kind of buried it, right? Like, kind of got her some help and just kind of brushed it off, really. They go to visit their mom, and then Madison realizes that Gabriel was not her imaginary friend, but somebody she really spoke to when she was a kid. But she still isn't getting the connection. And then they find the link between the doctors and Madison, which leads them to find Dr. Gregory's dead body. So clearly, like, the killer there's like a trail of these doctors or whatever that, basically had something to do with her when she was a kid, and whatever was going on with Gabriel. So they hypnotize Madison, and then she remembers that her actual birth name was Emily May, and then that Gabriel wanted to kill her unborn sister. She was able to stop herself. So, like, I think around this time is where she's kind of realizing, like, it's connected to her in some way, but she's not really all the way there yet, right? But then I think one of the funnier part, well, there's a lot of funny shit here, but before you get to the craziness of the last 20 or 30 minutes, where the cops are at her house or whatever because now they suspect her of being the killer, and then the woman that's been kidnapped falls from the fucking, like, through the roof, like right into the damn living room right in her house. So the killer, Gabriel, is living inside of her house. in the attic, and the woman they had kidnapped from the Seattle Underground was in the attic the whole time. So, Will, what'd you think of all this so far, like up to this point?
Well, like it's building the story, but man, when that lady dropped out of the ceiling, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I think her reaction was the only reaction you could have.
Yeah. She just started screaming, right?
Pretty much. And like how many movies have we watched where that person dies instantly?
Yeah.
Because it didn't make it like it was a 10-foot drop.
Well, the reason, I guess, is because that woman, turns out, that had been kidnapped or whatever, was actually Madison's birth mother, Serena May. So up to that point, they just called her Jane Doe. So that's who she was. So now her sister, Sydney, goes and visits that abandoned hospital. By the way, like, she parks on the edge of the fucking cliff. Like, anybody else, she goes and, like, all this shit is so convenient, right? Like, oh, this is the hospital. You can just go there at any time you want. Go in there, and by the way, apparently they just abandoned this hospital. They didn't take anything out of it either. Like, all the equipment's still there, all the fucking files and everything, and anybody can just walk in there with a flashlight and a fucking crowbar and just get anything they want. Like, she is easily able to go there and figure everything out, like, in 15 minutes. Like, she just looks through, like, finds an old VHS tape, looks through some files, and figures out that basically Gabriel is Emily's twin brother, who was basically attached to her head, right? When they were born. Apparently he had some kind of damn supernatural skill set or something, and they had to remove Gabriel off of the back of her head. But, like, I'm not even sure. I'm not a scientist, but I don't know if this is how they do that, right? They're just like, shit, we got a lot of leftover Gabriel here. Let's just tuck it into the back of her head. Like, is that the way they would do something like that? It doesn't sound right to me. But basically, that's what they did, right? They tucked Gabriel into the back of her fucking head.
Well, surprise! I actually do have 2 doctors in my family.
Okay.
I contacted them, and they said yes, that's exactly how you would do it. Mm-hmm. You just cut them off, and then you shove the face of the other thing just right back in the head.
And they also say, quit bothering us about Malignant.
Yes.
So during her childhood, Gabriel had appeared as a half-formed child, like facing out of her back. They were able to remove all this except for the brain. So they just tucked that into the back of the head. And then apparently he was dormant, but then he got woke up whenever her piece of shit husband slammed her head against the wall. Once again, I don't think any of this is possible or feasible, but, like, you just need to go with it, right? Gabriel then, apparently, like, he's grown his face back. Like, so they tucked the brain in there, but I guess he's able to, like, reform himself somehow in there. Look, supernatural, super crazy shit is afoot. So now he's able to, like, pop his face out of the back of her head from time to time, I guess, whenever he wants to take control, and then, like, just basically twist her body around and, like, starts walking backwards. Man, when I saw this, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is going on here? I mean, this is some, like, damn, like, Japanese horror ghost water shit, or water ghosts, whatever they call those things. Like, it's like The Grudge and The Ring, like, and meets The Exorcist kind of shit. But, like, he's able to function completely and just beat some ass this way, too. Which explains all the weird movements that you had seen up to this point, too, because, like, even when you saw a couple glimpses of it, you're like, what the fuck? Like, it almost looks backwards or something, like, until you finally, like, see it happen. It explains his unnatural, this little quote that I read here, it explains his unnatural movements and the upside-down fingerprints at his crime scenes.
By the way, how do you decide that a fingerprint is upside down?
Yeah. Well, it just depends on the way you're holding the paper. But the reveal is the best. The reveal of all this is the best part. And then, so she's in the fucking, like, the jail. She's in the lockup or whatever. And by the way, what kind of jail is she in? Like, did she go to 1984 prison? Like,
yeah, I know.
What the fuck? Like, what kind of lockup day jail is this?
Every female prison stereotype is in there.
Oh yeah, they're all there. Like the prostitutes and just the look and everything. It's all there. It's like watching like an old episode of every '80s sitcom where they had to go to jail, and they're all sitting around like waiting to get bailed out, and they have to like crack jokes with everybody that's in the jail. Gabriel takes over Madison's body. Now this is the big reveal, right? Like, holy fuck! Like Gabriel's inside of Madison. And he just slaughters, or she, I guess, however you fucking want to phrase it. It slaughters.
Let's use the proper pronoun.
Yeah, we're all about the pronouns here. It fucking just slaughters everybody, and then is like the cop like reaches in with his hands for some reason, and she just kills the shit out of that guy and is able to get out of there, and then just fucking lays waste to the precinct. Like I said, this is like backwards Matrix.
Well, it is.
Just as good as Arnie did in the first Terminator movie.
Yeah.
This is also the same police department that decided the fingerprints were upside down.
True. So, and they also went to like the school of stormtrooper shooting, because like they're all shooting at this motherfucker and nobody can hit it. So he just lays waste to everybody and then just takes off and leaves. They were able to get him at the hospital, where, remember, their birth mother is there, at the hospital, and they kind of have this, I'm talking about Sydney and Shaw, Kakoa Shaw or whatever. They confront Gabriel, there at the hospital, and because it's coming for her mother. Sydney, her sister, tells Madison that Gabriel was the one that was causing all the miscarriages and everything, because he was feeding off the fetuses. Now, how is she able to come to these conclusions? Like, that's what.
No, that's just what happens,
It had nothing to do with the abusive husband.
Yeah. How many of my babies are gonna have to watch die in your womb? Nothing.
Maybe if he went in the stomach, they wouldn't die.
Yeah, he's over there poking her in the stomach. She obviously, once she finds this out, Madison is fucking pissed. So like now there's like this whole back and forth in the mindscape kind of thing between Madison and Gabriel. She takes back control of her body, and then it kind of like locks Gabriel away, right? Kind of just locks her away in his mind or whatever. Set something to the degree of like, he's going to come back. Well, he'll come back one day, and I promise I'll be ready. It's kind of where you leave it. They're in the hospital, and she's back in full control of her body. She lifts the hospital bed. Her sister Sydney was like pinned to the wall by hospital bed because Gabriel was losing it in there. So she's able to lift it up. So I guess at that point you're to assume that like now she has the superhuman abilities or strength of Gabriel, right? Like I guess she had it all along, but now like she's kind of in full control of it. They hug.
Think about this. Once she harnesses that, dude, Gabriel was able to do that behind his back.
Now you can imagine what she can do from the front. So basically the happy ending, right? In a way, like they hug. You'll always be my sister, even though we're adopted. As they hug, the birth mother Serena, she's over there looking on happily, and then you hear the electric humming that accompanied Gabriel's attacks. You can hear it faintly in the background. So there you go, Malignant. I guess starting right now with you, Donnie, we'll go ahead and what's your star rating and what are your thoughts on the movie as a whole?
Well, I'll give my thoughts on the movie as a whole, and then I'll give my star rating. Like I mentioned previously, this is my second time watching it. And also, like I mentioned, I feel like I kind of needed a second look because I did not like it the first time. I initially thought that Gabriel's fight scenes looked like something out of Van Helsing. But on the second viewing, I actually I kind of appreciated it a little bit more, despite knowing all of the twists in the story. I was able to kind of look at it, kind of from a different angle a little bit. But certainly the second viewing changed my outlook on it. I did like the gore, the camera splatter scenes where the blood actually kind of splattered on the camera. No one mentioned this, which I was actually kind of surprised at. But no one mentioned that this was kind of a more modern kind of take on Basket Case from 1982. We haven't discussed this on the Spook Show, but I do kind of like Basket Case a little bit more than this. I was kind of conflicted with my rating. You had mentioned that the runtime was an hour and 51 minutes. I feel like it was kind of longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Some of the scenes were kind of overacted, kind of overdone, which kind of took me out of basically took me out of the story both times I watched it. Man, I was kind of conflicted with the star rating a little bit. I liked it the second time, but kind of overall, I have to give this 2 3/4. 2 3/4 stars.
All right, Will, what do you say?
For me, I'm gonna go with a 3. Yeah, I mean, there were definitely like some spots in this movie where things didn't add up, like the smoke monster at the beginning, but it doesn't really hold any bearing on the rest of the movie. I don't know, like it felt like there was action every so often, and when that action was up, man, it was like you had done a line of coke or something. Like it was crazy and off the wall. Yeah. To me, I mean, it was a fun movie. Definitely one you got to suspend disbelief. But yeah, overall, I would definitely recommend this movie. Just to anybody, and just say you just got to watch it. Love it or hate it, you got to watch this.
Professor?
Some of my sentiments will echo both Donnie and Willie. And first and foremost, yeah, I'm glad that Donnie mentioned the Basket Case reference, because that was what I was going to say too. It was, once we got to it, I was thinking about it before I'd seen this movie. I'd heard a little bit about something, like somebody had mentioned that, so I already had that part sort of not ruined, but similarity had already been kind of pointed out to me before I got to watch this movie the second time around. So, but yeah, I can definitely see that correlation in there. And yeah, Basket Case is definitely a movie that we'll have to get to at this point. I know Donnie's seen it. Have either you or Will seen that?
Oh,
Josh?
yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, Frank Henenlotter is somebody that we need to get to, whether it be that movie or any of those early 80s movies of his. But yeah, there's definitely a correlation between Basket Case and this movie with the twinning thing. Although it's carried out in a much different way in both movies. The gore was pretty heavy. That's pretty good. I like that it was splattery. The only thing though that I have, and this is kind of a personal, I guess, qualm with me, is it did have good practical effects, because the creature, when it showed it in the VHS footage, that they found footage, so to speak, from the hospital, and they showed the creature right with the arms and sticking out from the head and all that stuff. That was all seemed very like practical effects, I assume. But whenever there was like blood splattering, and there was a lot of blood splattering, but that seemed to me like digital. Like there was a lot of digital blood, I guess. And that's just a pet peeve of mine. I like blood squibs. Whenever you're gonna have blood splatter, I like to see it, the practical effect of the fake blood splatter, rather than the digital. It's very noticeable to me when I see it. And I'm like, it's kind of like, it cheapens it a little bit for me. But that's just me. That's a personal thing for me. It doesn't detract too much from the movie. It's just I'd rather the blood have been more practical. But and then the length of it, as both you mentioned, Josh and Donnie, it could have been cut down a little bit. Could have been trimmed at least 15, 20 minutes or so. But overall, it's definitely enjoyable, and I would recommend it. So I'm gonna go with like Donnie. I'll go with 2 3/4.
Now, I think, in my opinion, I can see the Basket Case comparisons. What was it, Bilal? Wasn't that the...
Bilal, yeah.
Bilal. I can see the comparisons, and it's definitely there. But to me, the one movie that came more into mind, it's not necessarily the movie as a whole, but one part of the movie that just reminded me more of is Total Recall. Fucking Quado.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
She's got.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Good point.
That's what it is, dude. She's got a head Quado. That's exactly what this is. It lives in the back of her head instead of her fucking stomach.
Also, if you want to bring it into more recent times, you could say Harry Potter and what's his name, Voldemort.
Yeah. But yeah, so like it's kind of been stated. I mean, I agree with all of y'all in different ways. When I watch it as a whole, and I'm sitting there like criticizing it to myself as I was watching it. Like, what the fuck? What the shit? During the whole movie, right? And then as the ending, I'm gonna say, oh, this is fucking awesome. This last 20, 30 minutes. In those parts, at least, right? But I'm still like, this still didn't make any sense. And then, when I'm done with it, I'm sitting there and I'm like, it was like the more and more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Like, I don't know I don't run into this a lot with movies where, like, I ran like all the emotional spectrum. I was, like during different parts of the movie and towards the end, I'm like, I'm mad. I'm like, what the fuck? At one point, I'm like, man, fuck this movie. I'm going to cut it off. Like all of that as I'm watching it. And then at the end, I'm sitting there like, you know what? That was pretty fucking awesome. Kudos to James Wan for that. I'm going to go more with Will. I'm going to go 3 stars. And, I'm sure all of us might feel a little differently once we do the 4th anniversary show in October where, we have a chance to re-rate stuff. So who knows? It might go up or down. I probably might have another viewing of this in my future before then. So who knows how I'll feel then. But for now, I think a 3 for me on my scale is fair. But, I think we're all about the same. Like, literally, like Donnie and you and Smoke gave it 2 3/4, and Will and I gave it 3.
Yeah, we're only off a quarter of a star, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we all kind of feel the same way. Like, I think at the end of the day, though, like any movie you watch, if you can sit back and say, you know what, I had it might have been too long, this or that or the other. There's always nits to pick, so to speak. But if you can say, you know what, I had a fun watching that, then I think it was worth it. Like I think it deserves, kind of that score that we all gave it there. So the total consensus score, all those 4 combined, goes to a 2.88. So you round that up, that's 3 stars basically. So we obviously highly recommend it. I think you owe it if you're a horror fan or just a fan of like weird movies. You should at least give this one good viewing, in my opinion. I guess, Donnie, I'll go ahead and toss to you first.
Connections from the crypt.
I swear there's like a few more ha-ha-ha's every time.
Yeah, it just adds a little bit more. No, so they're, this being a James Wan, film, this, with his known ties to the Conjuring universe and all of that. There is a crew connection, which is actually she won a Spookshow Filmmakers Award in 2021 for, it was actually our very first award show that we ever did, which you can check out on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube page and search for the 2021 Spookshow Awards. But it was Eleanor Sabaduquia.
I think I remember you trying to pronounce that back then too.
Yeah. I believe I've gotten better at it now, but she's special effects, makeup, special effects. She has 9 crypt connections to past Spook Show episodes: Annabelle, The Nun, The Conjuring 2, The Curse of La Llorona, Annabelle Comes Home, Annabelle Creation, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and of course this one, Malignant. So that's 9 connections total, and that's on the crew side. And on the cast side, you would think, which Josh, you alluded to earlier, Annabelle Wallace. You would think that she would be the most notable on the cast side, being in Annabelle Creation, of course this one, Malignant. But it's actually Ingrid Bisu. I'm probably fucking up her name, but she was a actress on The Nun and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and of course Malignant. But she also wrote part of the story for Malignant as well. So Ingrid Bisu is actually on the second, I guess, the cast version of Crypt Connections to past Spook Show episodes.
So really the connection is James Wan, because pretty much all of those things you mentioned
correct
all connect to like James Wan production. So
yeah, there would be him, but I didn't want to say James Wan, all of this, all of that. Of course, I mean, technically
I think they were good pulls. I just mean that like the connection really there is James Wan probably is the tie that binds for all these things.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
those are all
Yeah.
like
It's kind of
production.
wanted to go outside the obvious.
Yeah. So Will, that'll toss to you.
I came up with 37. So kind of going through these off the top. You've got the scene with the hospital crew. So you got a skull crack, another skull crack, throat slashed. Then you got the husband who had his head smashed. I went ahead and put this one in here. I mean, I guess it's there. You just don't see the fetus die when the husband, like bangs a woman's head against the ground. It wakes up Gabriel, and then Gabriel like kicks in the door, and she falls on her stomach and has a miscarriage. Then you got the female doctor who gets her head bashed in with the trophy. The two male doctors who got stabbed with the trophy's spear. You got the 13 women in the jail cell who all died. You've got the guard that was killed. I'm going to say he was killed just because he had his head bashed into the jail cell, and it's a movie, so he's dead. Then you go out into the precinct. I'm going to count up 14 cops from there. God almighty. What all did Gabriel do in that one, man?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Cutting throats, breaking wrists, shooting shotguns through people, all that stuff. And then right at the end, I probably shouldn't have counted this one. I got Detective Shaw taking the thing in the shoulder, but he probably didn't die because he's kind of a lead.
Yeah.
So actually, I'll take that back to 36.
That naturally goes to you, Smoke.
Gore score.
As I talked about in my review of it, I was happy to see it be splattery. It had a decent amount of gore in it, which is actually kind of, I guess, somewhat new for James Wan as far as not new from the Saw movies, but recently with the Conjuring universe he's explored. A lot of those haven't, they aren't about gore. So it's kind of cool seeing him get back to doing some violence. It's one thing I don't think we touched on too much in talking about in this particular show was that weapon, the knife that was fashioned from the trophy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it's pretty badass, and it kind of reminded me of some aspects of this movie. I think draws a little bit on the Italian giallo genre, and I know James Wan's no stranger to that because the Saw franchise, especially the first Saw movie, also kind of draws on some conventions of the giallo genre. But that knife kind of reminded me of one thing. It reminded me of Argento's movie Terror at the Opera, or just Dario Argento's opera, another name for it, because there was a beast of a knife in that movie too, and it was also used just as brutally in that film. So some elements have that giallo killer type style, even in the leathery kind of whatever costume that was fashioned for Gabriel, I guess. When he was doing his backwards movements and he was wearing that some sort of black leather. So yeah, I like those giallo elements in there too. That knife, he stabbed the hell out of the guy's face in the bed.
Oh yeah,
that scene that was pretty brutal. And that probably did have some, as I mentioned before, the practical effects thing. I think that did combine sort of both practical effects and blood splatter. But a lot of the blood splatter, again, was that digital CG sort of blood splatter. But it was still there, and it was still pretty, it flowed pretty freely. So, and that jail scene, whenever she was slaughtering all the women in the prison and the cops, various points throughout the movie, you had some pretty good splatter.
They let the gore fly once you got to that, once you got to that point.
So, I don't know. I think it's definitely a solid 7, I think.
Hey, I mean, I could see you even go higher than that if you wanted to, but yeah, that's definitely that and more.
Yeah.
Like
I mentioned, the judging of gore scores, I'm constantly thinking of things in my head that are way out there that we haven't got to yet. So I'm trying to put a perspective, I guess, on things. Because some people might look at this and say, "Oh, that's a 9," or some people might say that's a 10 for me, But then we haven't really got to we've got to some 10s. I forget exactly which ones had 10. I think Reanimator, I may have gave that one a 10. I might have given Terrifier a 10 or a 9 at least.
Still haven't gone back and gotten some of those early ones because I think we started doing it around when we did the Monster Squad back in episode 28. So I need to go back and kind of put those in my document, where I keep track of these things. But yeah, probably. I'd be shocked if Terrifier wasn't a 9 or a 10.
And as I said too, I think I'm going to have some sort of 10 plus something whenever there's some sort of when it goes above and beyond, so to speak, of massive amounts of gore. But also there's some movies that are just not fun gore. They're just mean-spirited, sort of realistic, fucked up gore.
Yeah.
That would go beyond a 10, and I have to come up with some rating for that. And then others like Reanimator or this movie or Terrifier kind of crossed the line in areas, but Terrifier had also a lot of humor and stuff in it too. It had that one very, very effective splatter scene that's probably that definitely does cross the line into that. But it still still has a sense of humor about it. And this movie also is a very cult oriented feel to the gore and everything's kind of it's not really over the top, and it's kind of fun popcorn type splatter gore stuff. So I would give it it's up there at a 7. But once we get to some of these other messed up movies that we've talked about a little bit and haven't got to, like Cannibal Holocaust, for instance, I'm going to have to come up with something beyond the 10 for it.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that'll pretty much put a wrap on Malignant. But coming up next week on the Spook Show, we're going to be doing, I'd say it's probably going to be more like our first part of kind of going into Canon Films a little bit. We're going to be having a guest. It's a friend of Smoke, or acquaintance of Smoke's. His name is Paul Talbot. Now, he wrote a couple books on Charles Bronson, right?
Yep. Yeah, Bronson's Loose and then Bronson's Loose Again, covering aspects of Bronson's life.
Yeah, so we'll kind of be doing, I guess it's kind of a spotlight. We haven't really narrowed down exactly what the conversation will be with him because we haven't had it yet. But basically the conversation with him will probably be more about Charles Bronson and the stuff that he did for Canon Films and other stuff that he did. But, we'll also get his thoughts on Canon Films and talk about that a little bit with him because we have another interview lined up for probably a couple weeks after that. So I don't want to reveal quite yet what that is, but we'll get into that when we get closer. So we're going to have a couple of big interviews and kind of deep discussions about Canon Films over the next couple weeks, and the first one will be next week. So it's kind of a spotlight on Bronson / Canon Films coming up next Monday at 6 p.m. East, where you normally get your podcast. So I guess we've said all we need to say about that and about Malignant and everything else. So for Donnie, for Will, and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast, and we'll talk to you next week.